Alright guys, how's it going? This is Mr. Connolly here, and today I just want to go through some of the questions on from today's assignment, Friday, March 26th, Day 3, yep. So, if you have not read this on your own, or you did not watch the read aloud that Mr. Basinger did, which is also on Canvas, go ahead and get out of this video right now and go either read this on your own or watch the read aloud, which you can find right below day 3 in modules there. It's labeled day 3 read aloud, I think, or something like that. But if you have done either of those things, let's go ahead and I want to go through these questions. So I like the annotated version right here, but it doesn't have the question, so I'm going to be going back and forth between the annotated and the regular version. So, let's look at number 1 right here. Based on the information in the section, how do animals and plants do history? Which of the following is true? Well, let's look right here. Oh, if I can pull a tool up, maybe. Probably not. Never mind. Sorry. But read that number 1. Based on the information in the section. So it's giving us a section titled there for number 1. How do animals and plants do history? Which of the following is true? People share memories differently than other living things. Plants can remember and share their past histories. Tree rings can only tell a tree's age and size, or animals share records of how much food they have stored. So, with that in mind, let's go to the section, how do plants and animals record history? If I can pull it up real quick. Sorry about this, guys. Yep, right there. Sorry, it was at the very bottom of the page, is why I lost it right there. So there's a section that the question ones I have us look for. So let's read it out loud together again. All living things carry memories of the past. Animals need to be able to keep track of the seasons so they know when to hibernate, when to hunt, and when to have children. Many rodents and birds store nuts and other food in special hiding places. They need to remember where they stash them so they can find them months later. Wolves mark the perimeter of their turf. It creates a sort of record that says to other wolf packs where their territory is at. Even plants seem to record passing of time. If you slice through a tree, you'll see growth range right there in the picture. Every year, a new layer grows just under the bark. There is often a light part formed around in the year and the darker part that forms later. Each ring represents 1 year of growth. Rings are more noticeable in a region with lots of seasonal change. Wet seasons typically produce thicker rings than dry seasons. That enables us to often figure out the exact year in which a layer has been formed. Scientists who study growth rings cut trees open and date them by counting the rings. They can also see evidence of climatic events, droughts, or forest fires will also show up in the rings. But tracking the past isn't the same as having a memory of the past. A tree ring might show the date of a major fire, but only humans can share their knowledge of the past. Excuse me. So, let's go back to those questions then. Based on the information of the section, how do animals and plants do history, the one we just read, which of the following is true? People share memories differently than other living beings. Plants can remember and share their past history. Tree rings can only tell a tree's age and size. Or D, animals share records of how much food they have stored. Well, people share memories differently than other living things. I would say that is true, but was that from the section? Let's come back to that one. B, plants can remember and share their past histories. Well, as we thought with the tree range, right? Plants can remember, obviously, like you can see a fire in a tree ring, but can they share? I wouldn't say not necessarily. So let's cross B out then. So no B. C, tree rings can only tell a tree's age and size. Well, like we learned, tree rings should also show when a wet season happened, when a dry season happened, different things like that. So we're down to A and D. So I'll let you go ahead and figure that one out. A or D for number 1. If I could figure out how to write that on here, I would. I apologize, guys. Number 2. Select the sentence from the section History Based on Written Records that explains why writing became valued more than memory. A. The earliest records were list of property, cattle, sheep, and wheat. B. Within a few centuries, we begin to elaborate written chronicles. C. At the time, most people were not able to read or write. Or D. Once something was written down, it was much harder to keep changing the story. So let's go to number 2. Let's go to the section History Based on Written Records, like it's asking us to. The first histories based on written records, right there. So it's a rather long section. It's probably the longest one, right? So let's go ahead and read through it. Today, we don't expect history writing to be based on the memory of the historian. We expect it to rely on evidence. And written evidence is most important. So we're saying written evidence is very important. I think you would worry if a history teacher said, well, I think World War I began in 1914 because that's what my grandmother's dad told her. History based on written record appears quite late in human history. The first written records date back to a little more than 5,000 years in Egypt and ancient Sumer. The earliest Sumerian record were made using reeds. They were cut at an angle to make triangle-shaped marks on clay. The clay tablets were then baked until hard. Many of these clay tablets survived, and scholars today can still read them. The earliest records were a list of property, cattle, sheep, and wheat. But even that is history of a sort. So, kind of like what we talked about this a long time ago with cuneiform, right? Within a few centuries, we begin to find elaborate written chronicles. The great Sumerian epic Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, was one of the first. We also find stories of floods, of gods, and of the creation of the world. Some of these stories made their way into Jewish scriptures, the Christian Bible, and the Muslim Quran. Wherever writing appeared, it was used to write accounts of the past. At the time, most people were not able to read or write. Despite this, those accounts started to become the basis for further historical accounts. Written documents were seen as more trustworthy than oral stories. Once something was written down, it was much harder to keep changing the story. So that last part right there, and I'm like highlighting and making a weird color right now. Makes it harder to keep changing the story. So let's go back to our question then. Question 2 is asking us, select the sentence from the section, History Based on Written Records, that explains why writing became valued more than memory. The earliest records were a list of property, cattle, sheep, and wheat. Well, that's true, but why does that actually make writing more valuable? B. Within a few centuries, we begin to find elaborate written chronicles. That is also true. That's a fact. He's stating a fact there, right? But does that fact mean actually show us that, hey, writing became valued more than memory? See, at the time, most people were not able to read or write. Does that tell us whether or not writing became more valuable? And D, once something was written down, it is much harder to keep changing the story. That's an also fact, right? Have you guys ever played the game Telephone before? Where you get a word, you have to whisper in someone's ear, and they whisper into another ear until it gets to the very end. It's always a completely different word, right? Well, you get the same thing from history. What does writing do? Makes it a lot harder. When you actually write it down, it makes it a lot more difficult to change or forget the past, right? So I'll let you decide which answer is that one there. All right, halfway there, guys. 3. Which of the following sentences develops the idea that writing is not the only valuable historical context? So we know writing is valuable, right? But which of the following sentences develops the idea that writing is not only the valuable historical context? A. They, being people, became more concerned with the crucial question, what version is the truest? All right. B. Evidence appears in writings of great historians Herodotus of Greece and China's Sima Qian. C. All professional historians today know they must get the history right. Or D, it is possible to understand something about earlier times without the help of documents. Documents meaning paper that people wrote on, excuse me. So, A, they became more concerned with the crucial question, which version is the truest? B, evidence of, stop with A, sorry. A, well, yeah, historians are concerned which version of the history, which version of the story is true, right? Does it say anything about writing? Or does it say anything about any other forms of learning the history? Not necessarily, and that's what the question's asking us, right? What other things are valuable sources? B, evidence appears in the writings, so we're talking about writings of the great historians Herodotus of Greece and China's Sima Qian. Well, yeah, we are talking about writing, right? Well, the question is not necessarily asking about writing, it's asking about other valuable aspects that help us learn history. So we know it's not B. C, all professional historians today know they must get the history right. Well, we know that. Or D, it is possible to understand something about earlier times without the help of documents or writings. So basically, D is saying, hey, we can learn about the past without actual written evidence. There are other stuff that we can look at to figure out the past. So I think we've narrowed it down to C or D. C or D for number 3. So I'll let you guys decide, C or D. Let's go move on to number 4 then. How is the structure of the section, what is history anyway, different from the structure of the section, how do animals and plants do history? So let's go back to our reading then. Oops. Still have the highlighter tool. What is history anyway? This tiny little one right here. Oh, stop it. As humans have progressed, we have discovered more precise ways of keeping track of time. We have also developed more accurate ways of keeping records and recording history. What exactly is history? Let's agree that it means a shared knowledge of the past. Why is it important to know about the past? How does that help us? Do animals need history? Did our ancestors have a sense of history in the Paleolithic era? How has that sense of change over time? These are basically your big questions that you need to look for in this reading. And, excuse me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was looking at something else. And we've already read how do animals and plants do history. I've already read that together in this video alone. So, is the structure of what is history anyway different from the structure of the section? How do animals and plants do history? A, the first gives definitions, the second asks questions. Well, yes, the first does give definitions, but the second, does it really ask questions? It talks about facts, right? It's answering how do plants and animals keep track of their history, right? So let's not go with A then. B, the first asks questions and the second gives explanation. Well, let's look. Yeah, the first one does give a lot of questions, right? If you look at this whole paragraph right here that I'm circling, it's nothing but questions about why history is important. And then the second gives us explanations. Well, that's true, right? It explains to you just exactly how do plants and animals record their own history, like the tree ring. Oops, sorry. Let's move on. The first gives explanation, the second offers solutions. Like we said, right? The first asks questions, mainly, not explanation. The second offers solutions. Well, solutions to what? How is recording tree rings a solution? Or D, the first offers solutions, the second gives it definitions. So, I say we narrowed it down to B or D for number 4, B or D. So let you guys go from there. Hey, if you have any other questions, guys, please let me know. You need to tell me what you need from me, and I'll be more than happy to help you. I hope this helps. I hope this helps you guys. If it does, I'll try to do more during this time of extended learning.